And that was President Obama during a stop in Bangkok yesterday. And while the anointed one finds time to joke about the threat of massive tax hikes and drastic spending cuts, one cannot help but wonder, does the president even want a budget deal? Or is it, just okay with America falling off the so-called fiscal cliff? After all, he hasn't exactly hidden his desire to raise taxes. Here with reaction from Chapwood Investments, Ed Butowsky is with us, and the author and columnist Jedediah Bila. Guys, good to see you.
Good to see you.
What do you think? Is there a deal in the works? And is it likely because Republicans cave?
I think he's going to dig his heels in on this and not budge. He campaigned on this issue. He talked about class warfare. He feels that he has a mandate to do this. And he has basically said, look, I'm willing to compromise as long as you guys have to compromise everything you believe in and I get to stand firm.
No, it becomes you do what I want first, and then we'll discuss the other things.
And he has also labeled Republicans as obstructionists, so that if you look at recent polling...
hostages.
But if you look at recent polling, it's working. The narrative is working because when people are asked, they blame Republicans for the standstill. So the GOP has not owned the narrative on this one as of yet.
The GOP's been in hiding. You don't really hear much from them on this, except some pundits go out there and say that they should cave. What's the big deal? The Tea Party won't care. Yeah, right. I disagree with that.
But I'll tell you, what kills me about this is it makes absolutely no economic sense at all. I mean, if you really stop and think about it, we owe $17.5 trillion. Raising taxes on the rich, over $250,000, will bring in 0.5% of what we owe. So we have to put this in perspective, and people have to understand that it makes no sense at all what the president is saying and what he is doing.
It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about a political argument. He wanted to pit Americans against each other. He wanted to paint himself as an ally of the middle class. In order to make that argument make sense, he has to continue in this direction.
These arguments are appealing. Obviously. Class warfare works, just like we were talking in the last segment, war on women tactics work.
Right.
All these, it's like a never-ending campaign by the Democrats. So they're at this point where they're going to say, oh, well, I'm only raising on the top 2%, and those Republicans, those evil, miserable SOBs, they're holding the middle class hostage.
Yeah, but Sean,
I'm ready to sign the bill. I could do Obama's line.
But in a way, he's lying to everybody in this country by not being clear on how the economics work. And I don't even know if he knows how the economics work.
Were the Republicans pushing back and just telling people, I never got a job from a poor person, ever, in my whole life. And I worked for a lot of people. Started out as a newspaper carrier and then a dishwasher, and did every job in restaurants and in construction. Never got hired by a poor person.
No, and it will not work. I mean, I hire people all the time, and I'm hiring people for less money because of all the regulations and how the business climate is. I mean, think about this for a moment. If you're a football team and you're up 100-0, all right, and then a team comes in and scores a half a point, and seeing them cheering and racing around, that's literally what this analogy is. That's how little money is going to be brought in.
I don't hear Republicans communicating why it's in people's best interest.
That's right.
They're not. And they also haven't owned the argument on the rich. They have allowed Barack Obama to paint this as millionaires and billionaires. We're talking about $250,000 a year. You're talking about a family that could potentially be living in New York City, where it can cost them $50,000 a year to pay their rent alone, who are going to have to put kids through college. This is not Donald Trump. These are regular people. These are small business owners filing as individuals. Republican Party needs to start owning the messaging.
How does politicians, because they're the greediest of all, I mean, they spend too much money. They spend the lockbox for Social Security. They bankrupt the country. They bankrupt Medicare. They accumulate power in the process. How come nobody ever focuses on how corrupt they are?
Well,
how selfish they are.
Because it's the narrative, and people accept which is easiest to understand. I mean, we used to read a paragraph of a story. Now we just read the headline, accept it as though it's the gospel, and we have to do a better job, including my industry, needs to do a better job of communicating this message.
How bad is it going to get?
I think it's going to get real bad.
How bad?
I think we're going to see, without question, even if we don't go over the fiscal cliff, we're still going into a recession because there's nothing on the horizon that looks good. So America needs to get ready for a slow economy to a weak economy.
And for how long does this last?
It's going to be at least 4 years because we're going to be stuck with these anti-business policies.
You really think we're not getting out of this for 4 years?
What's going to happen to get us out of it?
I don't know. And then how bad do we become Greece after that?
I don't think we get to Greece, but I think there's going to be this country is going to be very different if we follow the policies that Obama has in place.
And if they cared about debt and deficit reduction, they would be talking about entitlement reform. They wouldn't be talking about bringing in $80 billion a year by taxing the rich when we have $1 trillion annual deficits and a $16 trillion debt.
Jedediah, they'll be fine.
That's right.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to see you both.